Stop! Sure you want the rest of it?
Dirty Harry Minute. Dirty Harry Minute. Dirty Harry Minute Podcast. Dirty Harry Minute Podcast.
Every penny's worth.
Welcome once again to Dirty Harry Minute, the world's only podcast to analyse, construct or deconstruct, critique and discuss the 1971 film Dirty Harry, starring Clint Eastwood, directed by Don Siegel. As usual, we are joined by me, my name is Trent, and John, who's our main host.
I'm the main host, John, yes.
And we have two guests with us. We have Trav.
Hey.
And from Mad Max Minute, we have Rick. Now, how do we start? What are we, minute number 93?
Oh, yeah.
And what do you think of this minute, John?
Well, this minute begins with the rear shot of a school bus and ends with Scorpio beginning to climb some stairs. Now, I really liked how the bus knocked the VW Beetle off the road in a believable way, Trav. Like, it's not a Fast and the Furious type bump. It's just quite believable. Yeah, what did you think of this minute, Trav?
Yeah, I like how people I like there's a lot of falling into big mounds of dirt. I'm a big fan of that. And I'm a big fan of, like, running upstairs. So, you know, it ticks all the boxes for me this minute.
What do you think of this minute, Rick?
Oh, I was so, I guess, flabbergasted by how easily defeated Scorpio was by the common bus door and how quickly he gave up on it to go kick out the other one. I think in the battle of man versus door, you got to give it to the doors on this one.
I like how the kids are smiling in the first shot. Apparently, I can't really confirm this, but they used models or little people for some of the more action-packed scenes. Obviously, there's a union regulations about what children can be involved with. So were you able to detect, Trent, the change from the real kids to the dummies or the little people?
Not at all. What about yourself?
I can't really pick it out.
Yeah, I definitely can't pick it out. To be honest, I've never actively looked. I will do so from now on. But
have you got a Blu-ray in front of you, Rick? Are you sort of looking at a high-definition quality?
I'm looking at the quality that I have. I don't know if it's Blu-ray, but every time you're looking at the bus from a distance, they've done a really good job of shadowing the figures inside. Yeah. So they could be cardboard cutouts for all I know.
Yep, exactly.
Do you have, Trav, a favourite, I don't know what I'm saying, a kidnapping scene? Kidnapping in a movie?
I don't know. I don't know if you call it kidnapping, but I do like that scene in Face Off where Nicolas Cage just walks right into a choir and stands behind some girl and grabs her and then does some weird demon scream into the ground. I don't know if he was kidnapping her or I don't know what you call that. You got caged, maybe? Like, I don't know. I don't know what happened after that moment. They don't tell you, but you know, I'm pretty sure that girl's dead. That's all I can say. No one seemed to want to save her or question why the Nicolas Cage is part of the choir all of a sudden.
My favourite scene is exactly like this. It's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You've got a madman, apparently, Jack Nicholson, you know, he's in there to be tested, and he kidnaps a bunch of kids / mental patients, and he takes them to a fishing location. Yeah, exactly the same. So I think that edges up this. That I prefer that than this scene. And you, Trent, do you have a favourite?
I'm trying to think of one. Speaking of Nicolas Cage, my favourite kidnapping is possibly of his career with the Wicker Man. That was the first thing that I could think of, and how it was kidnapped basically to the sewage farm. Yeah, I can't really think of any right now. I'm going through kidnap, and all I'm seeing is really distressed people, and I'm thinking, I probably shouldn't say that's a favourite. Probably shouldn't say that's a favourite. So yeah,
I feel like it's an entrapment question.
it is an entrapment question.
If you know too many kidnapping movies, like suddenly like the police are going to kick down our door.
I'm staring at the top of the roof of the neighbour's house right now, waiting for a SWAT team person come and target in on me, and if I comply, they're ducked down there. I think
That's why I always deflect of a Nicolas Cage reference, because it just confuses and enchants anybody.
Well, why don't we lower the temperature here a bit, guys? Take the pressure off with an IMDb quote. When Harry is on top of the bus, he dangles down in front of Scorpio as he drives. Both men have their pistols in their hands. It is a mirror image with the men on opposite sides of the window. They have become one. They have become each other's doppelganger. Do you agree with that reading, Travis?
Well, it's not wrong, but it's also not right. So, I don't know. Yeah, I get, his opinions are like...
Are they one and the same? They're both whack jobs?
Pretty much. I mean, like I said, I think Clint Eastwood is... Harry's on, like, the verge of... If he wasn't a cop, I'm pretty sure he'll be a
male model?
madman, like, just going nuts. Yeah, a madman male model, which is the name of this movie screenplay I'm writing.
Now, Rick, the original script ended at an airport. And apparently it had, Scorpio about to get or put the children on the bus, on the plane, and some anonymous sniper manages to take Scorpio out, kills him. Harry, I don't think, was even there, or was just one, looking through or shouting out in a megaphone to our criminal. But apparently it was changed because Bullet had the finale at an airport, and they were trying to stay away from that. Do you like the end of? Do you like this last end of the movie? Does it feel rushed to you, Rick?
I wouldn't say that it feels rushed. I think it feels right because these two men have been playing cat and mouse with us throughout the entire movie, and really to bring it down to a mano fight out in the middle of nowhere, away from everybody else, it really brings to bear the conflict between them. And I wouldn't necessarily say that they're mirror image of each other. I think they're more ideological opposites, which I know is me repeating myself from last time, but when you see them looking at each other with the guns drawn, like, they're opposite each other, one's upside down, one's right side up, and you need to take these, one's a agent of chaos, one's an agent of order, and you got to remove them. It's kind of like a Godzilla fight. You got to bring it outside of the city.
Yeah, to the Old West.
Because that's where Clint Eastwood is most powerful.
Is that when he goes Mecha Eastwood?
Well, I mean, the justice of the city, the civic justice in that beautiful city hall is nothing. You have to go out to the Old West to get your real, frontier justice. He's a bad guy. He's got to be killed and he's got to be stopped now.
Do you think Scorpio would have a more winning edge if he just got into that big yellow, what is it, a dump truck? Because he walks past it, but you would think that if he just got into that and then just ran Eastwood down, that would have been game over.
Yeah.
That little truck I've never noticed before. It looks like something that came out of Thunderbird 2 when, they're going to rescue someone down a mine or something.
In the Bollywood remake Kun Kun, the end takes place in a factory, and you would have what you've just wanted. Like, Scorpio is in a crane with a wrecking ball, like, trying to hammer it into the cop's head and stuff. It's a lot more comical, and I think you'll find the ending you want in that movie, Trav.
I'm gonna have to... What is it called? Kun Kun?
Kun Kun. It means blood, yeah.
Blood? It's like Duran. Like, is it really necessary to repeat yourself? Just call it blood. Like, I don't know.
And guys, I like how this time Harry goes through the cyclone fence, right? Or he's on the bus when it goes through there. And he's okay. This is a fence he can go over a fence with it and break the Miranda rights because he's in hot pursuit of the criminal. So,
I think someone's on that water tower.
Is there someone, Rick, on that water tower?
Let's see.
Oh, I've gone too far back.
Water tower.
When he gets out of the bus and then it looks like there's someone climbing down on the ladder. So that means they're not alone. Or maybe someone was working there that day. What day is it supposed to be?
There's actually 2 people on that ladder.
Oh, really?
There might actually be 3. As I'm able to go individual frame by frame, and I'm counting 2 definitely, 3 maybe.
One of them might be the AV guy. I mean, while this is all happening, surely the mayor and Bressler are getting in train like they're Harry's substitute. And we thought it might be the AV guy.
It'd be good if they would, like, Robocopped Harry. Like, they thought he was going to die. So they just already got, like, a robot Clint Eastwood ready to go. And then Robocop. Robocop Clint Eastwood mashup would be amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, he has to... It'd be like the Terminator. It'd be like he has to hunt down a Robocop version of himself. As an old man. Here we go. This is the people now. Oh, there's, like, someone's house in the background. Like, who lives so close to a like...
To quote the Mad magazine parody of this, they have Harry go, "I wanted this scene to end quickly as possible because I'm opposed to busing."
I'm glad you brought up that building just to the left of the quarry, because I did a little bit of digging on the Dirty Harry Filming Locations WordPress site.
Yes.
And according to that one, that's the only building still standing in this area.
Oh,
it's been completely paved over and changed since 1971.
I think it's just condominiums, is that right, Rick? It's just been redeveloped as a housing estate?
Yeah, the quarry is now condos. That little shack that we see in the movie itself is now a daycare center.
That's amazing.
The ghosts of the children on the bus.
It's a preschool.
I hope those kids don't get delivered in a yellow bus, because that would be a bit traumatic. with a guy in a brown suit who rides on top with no explanation.
See, Rick, going back to last episode, you were talking about foreigners reviewing this quintessentially American film. And in the course of watching this movie, doing a bit of investigation, we didn't really know... Well, we sort of knew a bit, but yellow buses were originally a solution to segregation. And the whole busing issue apparently has raised its head in recent days about the former voting records of Joe Biden and so forth, that whether in their younger days as representatives they voted against busing as a solution to end segregation. So this movie has a lot of topical things, not just rights, but a lot of things that are thrown up. Do you often hear in the media debates about busing, or isn't that debate well and truly ended? That
it's pretty much a done conversation at this point. A lot of the times, if you're hearing conversations about busing, it's directly related to funding for local school districts, because a lot of different counties and states will fund their schools in different ways depending on where you are. And so there's always talk, if there is talk about buses, what company is the school going to use, or how much of the bus driver is going to be paid. It's not usually, busing people from one neighborhood into another neighborhood. That's pretty much run its course by now.
Good. So now it's just a socialist issue. Who should pay? Should taxpayers be paying? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
In the novelization, Harry actually checks in. There's a full paragraph devoted to him checking in to make sure the kids are okay. But in here, he doesn't even give them so much as a glance. Does this make you hate Harry more, Trav?
Oh, how can you hate him? That brown suit. It's so charismatic. I can think the kids understand. Like, they're safe. He knows they're alright. Like, he doesn't hear any screaming. So he just keeps going. He has to get his man. Like,
Yeah. If he stops for a second, you'll lose him again.
So one of those kids is saying, "Do it for me, McGarnacle." Was there a Charlie Brown on that bus, and how he can finally get to the spelling bee on time?
good grief. Probably.
Indeed.
Here's another review about these last few minutes, Rick. And pardon my American accent, but we love doing it. The finale is not at night. It's during the day. It feels tacked on, and the pacing is rushed. Seagull's only got about 10 minutes to wrap things up. The big final action sequence? It's not big, but it should be. I think you said a few moments ago the ending is okay in your book. It would be changed if it was done again today, but do you have any sympathy with that reviewer's remarks? Is it rushed?
I don't believe so.
What about you, Trav?
No, I don't. No, not at all. Like, compared to action movies today that are so quick cut, you don't know what the hell's going on. Like, this, I don't know, this seems slow. I mean, not like, like a independent James Franco film, but, I think it builds the tension. It's just right. Like, I think all movies should take a leaf out of this. Like, it clearly shows what's happening. It's got the tension. So,
I like that we finally get to see the 44 Magnum, which feels like we haven't seen from ages.
the real star of the film. Was he Bill? Was it top build, the gun?
It should have been. It's apparently been voted the most iconic cinematic weapon after lightsabers in the Empire list recently, Rick.
I thought it was just voted the most powerful handgun in the... Sorry, but yeah. Had to go there.
Even in Slumdog Millionaire, where he's answering a question, even this poor guy from the streets of Mumbai knows, gets the answer right, that it's Clint Eastwood's weapon, the 44 Magnum.
I think we can all thank The Simpsons for that. Like, all my pop culture comes from The Simpsons. Because I was like, I didn't get that reference. And then, before Google, that's how I went and found out things. And then had to go to Blockbuster and watch a heavily edited version of that film. And then The Simpsons would piece together the bits that are probably censored.
Why doesn't Scorpio shoot... Did I say Scorpion or Scorpio?
Scorpio. Yeah. Why? Said it right.
Why doesn't Scorpio just shoot Harry as Harry comes, where he has a chance? Why does he run? I mean, Harry's in a pile of grain, wouldn't he? Why doesn't he just shoot him? Is he just really, really scared?
Yeah, I think it's just him being a coward.
Yeah.
Like, he's a sniper. He's not a bank robber.
We said yeah. But I mean, later on, invading future minutes listeners, I'm sorry, but he's willing to risk that he can get the gun, he can shoot out Harry later on. He takes that gamble. He's not a cow. I suppose that's the only thing you can do when you're cornered.
I think I'd be pretty scared if a man in a brown suit was chasing after me. Like, I think I would just run. Like, even if I knew that person, and if I just saw that, I would probably run in the opposite direction.
You have a problem with the colour brown, don't you, Trav?
Well,
He's gonna smell like poo.
not necessarily, but it's very intimidating with the shades, the suit, jumping off bridges. Like, what else? You wouldn't just sit there and like. It wouldn't be like that Mark Chapman after he shot Lennon and just sat there in the gutter, read Catcher in the Rye. Like, I don't think he would do that. Like, I think he would run.
Well, getting back to Dirty Harry, guys.
Oh yeah.
We were talking a bit before about intuition and guardianship. And obviously we're living in a time now where there's a lot of strongmen leaders around the world who, get into office, they play the populist card, that they alone, they're outsiders, they're not in the beltway. You shouldn't trust traditional elites like experts, judges and the media, because they're incompetent, and voters should instead trust an outsider who has intuition that you should follow, and that's somehow more appropriate and a better way you attain justice. What do you think Harry would say to these people, Trump and, Erdogan and all these strongman leaders, Trav? Like, does Harry want, in his heart of hearts, does Harry really want a police state? Or does he just want a bit, 10% more, put the dimmer switch on suspects' rights, turn it down a bit, just give police 10% more power and we'll be fine.
I think he would just dismantle the police force and then just take on all crime, all across America, just him. I reckon he could do it. He would just be...
Might take a few lifetimes, but...
Yeah. he would do it. He would just be like, take a holiday, I got this. And do it for free. As long as they give him a brown suit and sunglasses.
One hot dog a day.
Yeah.
Some DMs. Do you think this movie's fascist, Rick?
It's hard to say.
Is it irresponsible? Is it just going, like Trump, just throwing things out there? See what happens when you give suspects too many rights? Anne-Marie Deacon, this all could happen.
I think it paints an interesting picture of a man butting up against the system, but I think it's a better highlight of how some people are able to abuse the system. Because obviously, a lot of the systems that are in place that get in Harry's way, they're there for good reason. They're good to protect. They're there to protect ordinary people. But Scorpio is not an ordinary person. He's someone who exists outside of the paradigm that lawmakers envision when they're writing up stuff like this. And I think it goes back to the fact that they did name this movie Dirty Harry because he gets the dirty jobs, and this is an incredibly dirty situation. And I wouldn't necessarily say that the movie itself says, oh, let's have a police state. I think it just says, hey, there are, aspects of society that don't fit into your parameters. And the traditional methods that you use to deal with ordinary people aren't going to apply in this situation.
Yeah. I mean, this movie was released at a time, apparently in the 60s, the last real big boom of crime. At the same time, you've got rising crime and civil disobedience. That's just normal society status. Forget this, this new category of serial killers that have come in. At the same time of this rising crime compared to the post-war era, you've got all these novel new legal rights that are being expounded by the Supreme Court. And this movie definitely, I would think, probably has a go. Is that too strong a word, Trav? At due process and Miranda rights?
It seems pretty anti-bureaucratic. Red tape.
Brown tape after his suit.
I was thinking that, especially in America, there seems to be, from our end, it just sounds like constant streams of school shootings that are happening. And I wonder if that someone would... I don't know if there will be a certain period of time where there will be, a Dirty Harry character that takes out a kid in a school. Do you reckon they would ever cross that line? Because that's pretty controversial. Because we look at Scorpio... is it Scorpio or Scorpion? Yeah. He's a madman, but because he's an adult, we're kind of yeah, well, he deserves to be shot at the end. But we would put that same principle to a kid that's gone, some incel kid that's, having a tough time at school and thinks that's the only way to deal with it. It's pretty dark, I know, but it's a question.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a tough situation because with how Harry handles this situation, spoiler alert if you're watching this 1 minute at a time and you haven't seen the whole movie, with the way that Harry kills Scorpio doesn't have any punishment for his actions. He's dead. You can't punish someone who's dead. I mean, I guess if you view death as a punishment in and of itself, yeah, I guess, that's the ultimate punishment. But really, at the end of this movie, Scorpio gets away with it. And that's the problem with just taking criminals and shooting them dead in the streets, is that there's no justice, there's no recompense, there's no restitution to the people that were hurt.
Well, that's right. Once someone's dead, you still can't try them. Will the police ever do a follow-up to Anne-Mary Deacon and say, well, look, we couldn't pin him, but we're categorically sure, because of the sniper rifle and everything, that we're categorically sure that this man who was found dead outside a quarry was the man who killed and raped your daughter. In real life, I don't know if the victims would ever receive any even notification of restitution, would they?
Right.
Is it because Harry thinks that he's so chaotic, it's just so full of malice, that he just thinks, well, I just have to put this guy down because Harry is so he doesn't believe in bureaucracy and the slow-moving wheels of justice, that he's you just need to shoot these people, medieval style.
That's his policy.
He's like a witch smeller that used to just burn witches without even really trying them. Do you think he's taken that sort of...
Do you think that Harry has lost his faith in the justice system at this point?
He hasn't quite thrown his badge away, but we talked maybe, in effect, he has already quit when he said, "Get yourself a new delivery boy." He's certainly going to get, one red card for that.
He meant that literally, because he actually it was moonlighting as a delivery boy. And he's like, I can't do both jobs. He was actually, what's in America, the famous one that's always in movies? The removalist. FedEx, yeah.
Hey, FedEx was created in 1971, the year this movie came out.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
In Australia, we have Star Trek.
Star Trek Express.
Just how lame we are.
TNT!
The dynamite.
Yeah.
Well, going back to what you said, Rick, we've talked about, this new breed of serial killer. I mean, they've probably always existed since antiquity, but this was a part of time when serial killers, spree killers as they were once called, was quite a novel idea. And Harry, of course, is familiar with the old-fashioned criminality, like, the bank robbers. He has a sort of respect for them. That's why the spiel he gives off to them is one of respect. You're the bad guy. So to speak, a burglary is, in a way, honourable. It's like, I'm taking money by force, I'm doing it. Here, there is a new...
Yeah, there's a clear motive.
new type of criminal that's come around. But I'm sure Harry has had trying cases in the... Is this a career-defining episode in his life? Forget the sequels. Imagine we haven't seen them. Do you think... Is Harry bewildered? Is this the first time he's been frustrated by bureaucracy? I doubt it.
Well, watching this movie in an isolated bubble, not thinking about the other movies, I think it is definitely a career-defining case for him because Scorpio is killing for sport. Like, he's demanding money, but he doesn't necessarily, I would say, need the money. He's just killing for the sake of killing, and it doesn't make sense. When you're robbing a bank, you're robbing a bank for the money. When you're kidnapping and holding people for ransom, that's very clear. You let the person go. With Scorpio, he didn't even let the person go. They were dead to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't think that girl was ever alive.
Yeah, I agree.
So this is just a breed of psychopath that you can't treat the same way as other criminals.
Some criminals do say that it's a rush. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, Bonnie and Clyde, like, they didn't need the money at some point. Well, maybe they did, but they said they just kept doing it because of the rush and the thrill and the adrenaline of being outlaws.
Travolta and Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
Damn, what a rush!
Feel the need for speed.
Well, Rick, a previous guest, Pete Mummett from Indiana Jones Minute, he turned our eyes onto this movie called The Sniper.
Oh, that's a great film.
From 1952. Have you seen it?
Is that the one that's got Boris Karloff in it?
No.
What's that one? Oh, it's called Targets.
Targets, yeah.
Right.
No, but The Sniper, and it's I watched that the other day, and it has Eldolph Minjo, or that actor. Anyway, he's talking his spiel about this new type of criminality, and I've just got a quote here. He goes, "This sniper thing is driving me crazy. There are some things I understand and some I don't. If a guy blows his top and sticks a knife in someone, on the spur of the moment that is, I understand it. So does the law, second degree. And if a guy decides to knock off his wife and spend 6 months figuring out how to do it, I understand that too. That's first degree. But this thing I don't get." And they're really playing up this new type of criminal, the serial killer, and they don't know how to deal with it. And it's a bit sloppy. I mean, it's a good captured. It's a B-grade movie, but the sort of ethos of the movie is we really need to treat people at the beginning. Society has to find a way to detect these people that have psychopathic urges, and rather than just put them in jail, we should pretty much put them under, psychiatric treatment from the minute they slap a woman or something.
You know what Manhunter's about?
Manhunter.
Mindhunter. Is it Mindhunter?
I still haven't seen that
I
yet.
haven't seen it either.
Another similar film is Roller Coaster. Have you seen that?
Oh, the 70s one.
1977, or about the sniper plucking off people on roller coasters. To me, that seems like it's riding on the coattails of this. Because is it Seagull?
George Segal.
George Segal.
And in his first ever small role, Steve Guttenberg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is his debut film. I think he's an extra. I don't think he's actually a featured player.
It says here Helen Hunt's in it as well.
Yeah, she's a kid. Because she was in Little House on the Prairie and stuff like that.
It's a good read, Rick. Trent gave me for my birthday some years back the Gutenberg Bible. It's quite a good read, Steve Gutenberg's autobiography. Anyway, going back to this movie, The Sniper, my Harry, I'm glad I watched it, Pete. Thank you very much. But like, there's so many Dirty Harry connections. The one, like, the movie was written by a husband and wife team, just like this one. 2, the movie starts with a rifle being assembled, or like a sniper rifle being pulled out and aimed at someone. 3, it features a lot of North Beach locations, where we obviously saw Hot Mary. 4, it has picket fences on San Francisco roofs and cops posted on roofs looking for the sniper killer. And 5, the killer writes notes to the police. And 6, most importantly, the sniper is really, like, unstable, and he's sort of like a kid. He has up and down emotions. And last of all, there's a big office scene with the mayor, and this time there's actually a psychologist in there and a newspaperman, and they're all talking about how, you know, they should respond and report the crime about this serial killer, whether they should report it in the newspaper and everything. So it was quite an early companion. It's like a genre piece, but a good companion piece to this movie, all in San Francisco. So listeners, please check that out.
Is that your hot tip?
Hot tip: The Sniper, 1952. Now, I also can't verify this, but when we watched this movie in film and television studies in year 10, we had some printout from some classic book, history book. I can't find where it was, but I've got a photocopy of it at home, and it says that the Filipino police at their academy, police academy, was shown this movie as a training film. Can anyone find out, any of you guys, if that's true?
Really?
Can you imagine that, Rick? Do you think any...
That's a bold move.
Yeah.
So they actually want more Dirty Harrys? Like, wouldn't that go against the whole ideology of the police and working together and following the law?
I mean, especially when you're training them, you want them to respect the bureaucracy at least a little bit.
Seems a bit counterproductive.
I guess it was just how to be ruthless to a killer. Once again, I can't confirm if this is true or not. Also, they say that Siegel and Eastwood were asked to address police associations.
It kind of asks the question, how many young people saw this and then got into the police force because they were inspired to be Harry? And they were like, I can do that, jump on a bus, wear a brown suit.
There is always the allure of being a man in uniform. I'm not going to lie. There is a bit of a feeling of power that comes with it.
Dirty Harry, you are very good at turning me on. Have you seen many other Eastwood movies, Rick?
I have seen a few. Good, Bad, and the Ugly is one that I definitely saw. Trying to think, what other standout instances have I seen? I saw $1 Million Baby. That was a pretty good one.
Yeah. A movie that in many ways challenged people's opinions of Clint Eastwood, because it's essentially a pro-euthanasia film, isn't it?
I think it gives enough time to think about it. Like, I wouldn't say it's like you walk out of it thinking, oh yeah, euthanasia is great. I think it gives enough time to dwell on the subject that it's done tastefully. I'll say that much.
But it maybe shows that Clint's more obviously a conservative, but he's more on the libertarian strand of that conservatism, and about, you know, what you do in your own, there's choices you make in your own life really don't have any, they shouldn't have a spiritual component the law dictates. I'm also, Hang 'em High is one that is sort of anti-death. Have you seen that one, that old 60s one?
I haven't seen that one.
It comes out he's anti-death penalty, really, because he's strung up by a posse of cow herders at the start of the movie and wants to take revenge on them because he was mistaken identity. And in the end, he becomes a sheriff. And the main point of the movie is, you know, you can't, capital punishment is bad because you can never know definitively if someone committed a crime, a murder, or, you know. So that there's some movies that go against his conservative strain, but for a lot of people, this movie, this series is why Clint's a reactionary, you know, right-wing nut, which I don't think is fair.
I mean, he can be nutty at times. I'm thinking specifically of that time he spoke to an empty chair, But, you know, actors are not like the rest of us, no matter what the tabloids say.
Yes, they're much better.
They're meta-humans. Wait, did you just say he spoke to a chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
What?
stood out on a stage behind a lectern and he spoke to an empty chair as if it was the then sitting president. And there was this whole bit that he was doing. It was a while ago.
Is it on YouTube or something?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was
Oh, yeah.
viral for a couple of weeks.
Oh, man, that's full on. So, did he knew he was being filmed?
Yeah. Yeah, he was presenting in front of a huge audience. What's that, Mr. President? You want me to move this way? Shit like that.
Are you able to explain that lapse of judgment as an American in a way that better than we can, Rick?
I wish I could, but I definitely can't.
Do you think this is a quintessential American film?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it delves very well into the idea of trying to live amongst, you know, people that are just unhinged. Like, there are a lot of personal liberties that our laws afford us, and there are a lot of inherent risk that comes along with that. And it's a good way to show that, you know, people can be pushed to the breaking point. There's a lot of movies that explore that, and this one is just another example of it.
It also plays that sort of revenge fantasy, or the being the guy that goes against all like odds, goes against everyone's sort of telling you to calm down and just
being given permission to go the violent route.
Yeah.
Here's a quote from the comedy film nerds. These gun-toting heroes are the offensive linemen of society. Nobody buys their jersey. People just yell at them when they're offside. But without them, everything will collapse. When I was an offensive guard, I did whatever I could to block the other guy. Let that sink in.
Who wrote this? Was that written by O.J. Simpson?
The comedy film nerds.
Ah.
What do you think of the actual site of the end, Trav? This quarry.
Yeah.
Would you have preferred the airport?
Like, I play a lot of computer games, so every time I see anything American, I'm like, that reminds me of something in Grand Theft Auto. So I think there is actually a level that in the last Grand Theft Auto that I think it's based on this.
You can't kidnap kids in any video games, can you?
You can steal the boss for people on it. So you could probably reenact. I mean, I'm sure someone's reenacted this. But I'm pretty sure there is actually a level where you go to like a lumber mill and you're chasing someone.
Yeah, I vaguely recall that in one of them as well.
And then maybe it was in the Russian, where you play that Russian dude.
Yeah.
Nico. So, you know, I've had my own virtual Harry experience, so I pretty much can say that I've lived this.
Once again, San Francisco's a great city for, you know, ups and downs, like hills and looking down vantage points of snipers, and here you've got Harry shooting up and...
Shooting up, literally.
Harry is horse, isn't it, for heroin? Another word?
According to the Beatles, yeah.
I much prefer the wood in the mayor's office than this sort of rustic, Wild West scaffolding wood of the trestle and the quarry. Rick, you were saying before that Dirty Harry, your take on the meaning, I mean, he's Dirty Harry because he does every dirty job that comes along. Is that your preferred reading of the meaning, rather than him being a peeping Tom?
Of the many different explanations of why they call him Dirty Harry that they gave in this movie, the Dirty Jobs one is my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dirty job, but someone has to do it, is the usual saying.
Ah.
They don't usually point out to Harry specifically.
Well, I think they should, because, as we said, it's pretty culturally in the psyche of. So I think they should just give it to Harry.
Usually these days we just say, oh, if it's a dirty job, then Mike Rowe, the host of the show Dirty Jobs, has to do it.
I think that whole sentiment is best put to music in Police Academy 2, where Mahoney's on his quad bike on the beach and dirty work, well, someone's got to do it, dirty work. Comedy is a bit different in Australia, Rick.
As a comedian, though, I can say that the pauses is actually an Australian applause. So we live for that. We live for just saying a joke that we work really hard on and then just having silence because we just eat it up.
Listeners have noticed the last few episodes have been very quote heavy because there's a lot of quotes I had that when we're doing prep for this podcast many months ago that I scribbled down, and they're just too good to use, but now I'm just crowbarring them in. But since we were talking about dirty jobs, Cobra has this tagline. It goes, "Cobra is a specialist, the cop who does those impossible jobs nobody else wants or dares to do. His single-minded purpose and unorthodox methods have created extreme paranoia even with his own department." So your friends at Canon were ripping off ideas left and centre.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that movie we spoke, Rick, has Rennie Santoni, who plays Chico, and Andy Robinson in a good guy role. Have you ever seen Cobra?
I have not.
You're not missing a lot.
I say I'm more of a Schwarzenegger guy when it comes to 80s action movies.
Yeah.
The start of Cobra's really good, that shopping
The supermarket
scene. And I think I used to get bored afterwards. I think because it has a similar kind of guy as Scorpio here. It has this like real nervous. It's kind of like that as Zed in Police Academy. I don't even shop here. I'm a vegetarian. Like it's pretty similar.
I can't even do it.
It's so fun seeing Andy Robinson though as a spineless cop. Like he's shouting at, "We'll give you money," like, "We're not going to hurt you, we're here to help you," doing like the carbon opposite of everyone in this movie.
That question about why, he didn't just shoot him there and then.
Shoot the bastard, that's my policy.
When I first saw this film as a kid, I was enjoying it so much that it was one of those moments in film where you're enjoying it and anything illogical that pops up, you just say, fuck it, I'm not going to ask myself this question, I'm not going to let this little thing ruin it for me.
I'll wait 20 years and then I'll talk about it on a podcast.
Exactly.
So I suppressed it. Thanks for bringing it up, John.
You think the internet today is what ruins movies, though? Of like the nitpicking is what's made people so whingy about films. Like we can't just accept a film, like especially with the Star Wars, how overly everything's pulled apart. I mean, I know I'm on a podcast right now where you're pulling things apart by minute, but do you think that affects? Like we look at these films so much more differently now. We can't just be entertained.
I agree. We can't just accept it at face value for the entertainment, in some cases that it's meant to be.
I think that's why when you're doing something like this, looking at something 1 minute at a time, you've got to come at it from an angle of I appreciate and enjoy this thing, not I'm going to tear this thing apart bit by bit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's so funny that, in the first Mad Max, for example, there were a lot of things there. First couple of times I saw it that were inconsistent, and despite being Australian, I'm partly deaf, and when I first got it on DVD I put the subtitles on, and the film that I'd seen probably over 30-40 times, I loved it so much, suddenly was like watching something else because I could understand some of the dialogue.
And you're a fair dinkum Aussie.
Yeah.
Struth.
Convict stock, mate. Well, Rick, I have a bit more hearing than you, Trent, but I was always convinced Scorpio was saying, "I'll kill all you motherfuckers," instead of "I'll kill all of your mothers." So I always thought he was swearing. I thought, "I'll kill all you motherfuckers," rather than "all of your mothers." So,
really?
Yeah.
Because I always heard mother, and it wouldn't have entered my head, motherfuckers, for
maybe that was the
1971.
edited. Because there's versions of Scarface for TV where that bit where it's like, "How'd you get that scar eating pussy?" And when they used to show it on TV, it said, "How'd you get that scar eating pineapple?" Like, and it's like, "Hey, how am I supposed to get?"
I've only seen the pineapple one, I think.
It was on the if you got the Scarface DVD, there's a documentary about the censorship, and it shows those scenes that they cut. And it's like, "Hey, how am I supposed to get a scar like this by eating pineapple?" Like, it's so random.
Is that the same edit where he talks about how the whole town is one giant chicken waiting to get plucked?
That's right.
Wow.
Well, Rick, when you first saw Mad Max on DVD, I suppose, in the late 90s, early 2000s. Did you have any similar revelations where a piece of Australian dialogue or, colloquialism, you're finally like, oh!
To jump in really quickly before you answer, Rick, I'm guessing you would have grown up with the American accented version.
Actually, I spent a lot of time watching the latter Mad Max movies because those were the ones that they would often show on television as opposed to that first one. The first movie, by the time I watched it, it was with the original Australian dub. Like, there's no American voices. I haven't watched that one at all, just on principle.
Did they do that for all Australian films because they don't like our accent? Which is fair enough. So they dub over it.
I think there's only been a couple. The
Castle?
No.
Crocodile Dundee?
The original Patrick.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
And Mad Max. Can you think of any others, Rick?
None that come to mind.
In a way, they sort of dubbed I Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, which was originally Strange Bedfellows, a different film with Paul Hogan that they ripped off. But Rick, were there any Mad Max colloquialisms, or you finally got to even phonetically? Oh, that's what he's saying.
I never knew that the phrase "struth" was a thing before I took a look at Mad Max. That's just not something we say over here.
Struth!
Well, see, when you're watching that first scene where the Knight Rider speeds by and Steve Bisley is in the diner, and they're like, "Struth, he's at it again." I never knew what they were saying. Like, it just slipped by so quickly, and then I was just, oh, Struth, okay, and then I understood what it was. We just don't throw that out. It's not something that we even have a replacement for that I can think of.
Crikey!
We do that a lot here in Australia. We're like, we just sort of make our own, like, we just take words that don't really mean anything and then we just chuck them out at people. Like someone's like, why don't you go shag a spider, or you bloody pelican? Like, these weird insults that it sounds like a one-off thing, but somehow just begins in circulation. Someone's like, oh, a bloody pelican, I'm going to use that. Like,
there are so many Australian-specific slang words that just boggle my mind.
Drongo, bogan.
Like, here we go. I got a list of 125 of them. Number 39 is one that we hear a lot in Mad Max Fury Road, but dag, one of the characters. And we're like, well, what the heck is a dag?
You dag?
There used to be an anti-smoking commercial, and the slogan was, only dags smoke fags. Which I found it really confusing.
Oh my...
It used to be a real feminine voice to be like, only dags smoke fags. And it was like, this is brought to you by the Australian Federal Anti-Smoking Campaign.
To be honest, you probably hear the adjective more, daggy, rather than actual a person being a dag. You know the meaning of that, of course. Urban Dictionary's probably served you well. The piece of poo in the fleece of the sheep near his bumhole sort of sticks out.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one to talk about. And then one of our listeners in particular always like to say, no, it's someone who's a nerd. I was like, no. We call them dingleberries, but that's what it is.
Well, I suppose, it's someone sticks out because they are nerdy, or they stick out because they're not popular, or they're wearing you know what I mean? Some sort of pathetic, not pathetic in a laughable sense, but they stick out because they're wearing or behaving in a way that's very lame-o.
Well, you'd find it's sort of an older people will say it, like people, my mum, like people in their 70s, or, oh, you dag, kind of thing.
I've been reading the novelization of the first movie as part of Patreon content related to the Mad Max Minute there, and one word that keeps popping up that Terry K likes to throw in there all the time is larrikin.
Yeah, we love that word.
He slips that one in every couple of chapters to talk about the bikies in that movie.
It's a term that we normally use for sports athletes. Like, if there's some sort of rape charges against, like, football players, people go, oh, these bloody larrikins, just having a laugh, aren't they? And you're like, I think they raped someone. And they're like, they're just being larrikins, mate.
The way the English sort of use the word lad, like, just laddish behaviour. But I haven't seen Mad Max in a while, but I remember the word, because I'm not a rev head or a car kind of guy, but I remember they used the word donk a lot.
I think they say fanging as well. Fang it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's popped up several places.
The first one has some really weird dialogue that is so Australian to the extreme that most Australians will kind of go, what?
Well, it was a different decade.
Yeah. I grew up, for the first 10 years of my life, near where they shot a lot of the first film. And Byron Kennedy played football with my mum's first husband. Right. And so for the last 25 years, I've been grilling her. What do you remember about him? What do you remember about him? Oh, well, Byron would come to the house occasionally for, we'd have club dinners and things like that. Yeah, what was he like?
What did he eat? Did he poo often? What?
No, but, look, yeah, Byron would be around, but, in the later years, he'd go off and do his film stuff, and just tell me more. And, she, the memory under pressure just sort of cracks, and she doesn't remember anything. But, yeah, so I sort of... That area of town is sort of a revhead area. I'm not a revhead at all. It's basically, you go there now, it's still like 1982. It hasn't sort of aged very well.
Well, that's pretty much all I've got for this minute, Rick. Thanks so much for joining us. It was great. Do you have any last observations about this minute?
I just find it interesting that Harry, who has been presenting as this stone-faced bedrock justice guy, ends the movie in a place that takes large, hard stones and breaks them down into tiny pieces that are barely recognizable. And it's here in this setting that he is going from the hard-bitten lawman to, the metaphorical gravel of a guy throwing away his badge.
That's beautifully summed up.
Well, many thanks for joining us, Rick. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And it's a bit of reciprocity to have someone who is someone who reviews a totemically Australian film, yourself, and us doing the reverse, getting to speak to an American who can give us some insights into a quintessentially American film.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Well, thanks for joining us, repeat guest Travis Nash.
Yeah, anytime.
You're still a Dirty Harry fan after coming back?
I'll never stop watching this. Just on loop in my house all the time. And night and day, just keeps playing.
Scaring the neighbours below. Trent, as usual, thanks. We haven't had you for a few weeks.
Thank you, yes, it's good to be back.
Cool. And our other co-host, Tim, is still on Daddy Daycare Minute with his newly born. Well, thanks for joining us, Rick, Trav, Trent. We'll catch you next time on
Dirty Harry
Minute.
I talk to the trees, but they don't listen to me. I talk to the stars, but they never hear me. The breeze hasn't time to stop and hear what I say. I talk to them all in vain. But suddenly my words reach someone else's ear, touch someone else's heartstrings too.